Hi everyone, I'm Flaminia, a native from Italy, and welcome to my YouTube channel. And today I'm doing that weird thing where I talk about something that it hasn't happened yet for me, but the date this video goes live, it will be my first year podcast anniversary, and I want to do something little. I want like kind of low energy type of thing, get cozy, but do something a little bit different than what I usually do, which are podcast episodes. And so yeah, I asked on my in my last podcast episode and on my Instagram to ask me some questions if you had them, and some of you kindly left some questions. There are not too many, which is fine. So I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'm not too stressed about it. As you may be able to tell, I'm on my bed. This is not like there is the heater behind this cushion, but it's a bit uncomfortable to just put your weight on your back. So I put a cushion, and I hope the lighting situation is okay and the quality is kind of okay as well. I'll maybe try to brighten up the situation a bit while editing, but we'll see. And I'm also wearing my stripe hype sweater, which is the latest FO of mine. So I'll definitely talk about this in my next podcast episode. So stay tuned if you want to hear about that more. And yeah, I hope you'll enjoy this different, for me, not very innovative video. And yeah, get cozy. We can start with the questions. First question is what's your favorite sweater construction to knit and or to wear? So I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I hate raglan construction. I don't know. All of those increases just, I don't know. They drain my soul, to be honest. They feel like they're never ending, and I'm never just reaching any point. It feels like I'm just not going anywhere. So that's definitely not my favorite. My favorite is probably definitely not a circular yoke as well. Feels kind of like a raglan with the increases kind of situation, but definitely not as dramatic. So I think anything like drop shouldery type. I think a drop shoulder and yeah, like a saddle shoulder, but not one of those like um construction, like the April, not the April cardigan kind of saddle shoulder, but the lace pullover kind of saddle shoulder, kind of feels like a drop shoulder anyway. I feel like I've never knitted one of those type of saddle shoulders where you basically knit, I think that's what I'm guessing, I haven't knitted one of them, but you knit two rectangles and then you pick up for the front and for the back, and then you join the round, and then you continue for the sleeves and all that. So it's kind of like a drop shoulder, but it has saddles as well. And yeah, some I mean, I like the fit of fragrance, but I don't like knitting them, so I don't have many. I think I just have two. Damn, that's crazy, honestly. For the amount of sweaters I knitted, just two? I mean, probably. I've knitted a raglan cardigan. So yeah, I didn't get to experience a lot of raglan sweaters because I haven't knitted that many. And I like the fit. I don't dislike the fit. Definitely prefer raglans with short rows. I think that's a pretty popular opinion. But yeah, I feel like I really like the really oversized effect. And I feel like you can get that more easily with drop shoulders than with raglans, because then I don't like I don't like knitting raglans, and I don't like knitting compound raglans. You know, if you want to knit a very oversized raglan sweater, either you end up with a massive yoke that's like too deep, or you do a more clever thing where you increase more rapidly, so you get the same amount of stitches and of ease without the yoke being so deep. But I don't like knitting that either, so I can achieve the same ease and kind of the same look with a sweater construction that I like more. So I would say I'm a drop shoulder kind of gal, and I never get tired of them. I feel like the yoke goes by so quickly, and then the body is. I'm very much of a person that suffers from like how's it called, body island a lot. Love sleeves, love knitting sleeves. Yeah, but the point is that with drop shoulders, I feel like the yoke goes by really fast, and then the body's a slog. While with raglans, I feel like the yoke is a slog and the body is a slog, so the leaves are the only things that get me through raglans, which you know is not the best experience. So yeah, I would definitely say drop shoulder, both to knit and to wear. I would stick with the knitting questions. I mean, there are three knitting questions. I mean, this was one, and I have other two. So, uh, another one, it's pretty tough. So, is if you could only knit one pattern in your life, which one would you knit? Which I feel like the person is asking, um, if you could knit only one pattern for the rest of your life, what would it be? Or maybe she's just asking if you could only knit one thing for like, you know, just one item in your entire lifespan. What would that be? Damn. So I would, you know, I'm trying to answer both questions. So, so if I could only knit one pattern for the rest of my life, you know, I already thought about this. So before knitting this sweater, the stripe hype sweater, I would have maybe said the Marseille sweater, which has, you know, maybe I shouldn't take into account modifications and stuff like that, but I feel like that's not that difficult to modify. And even if you wouldn't, like, the rules of the question don't allow you to modify patterns, which maybe that's kind of the whole point. It has a overall interesting construction by itself, and it's interesting enough to knit, even if it's all stockinette. It has some stripes, so you could, you know, play with colors a little bit and maybe with fibers. I saw some people knitting the Marseille sweater by Petit Knit in some like plant fibers, plant-based yarn. I'm sorry, it just wasn't coming to my mind. Some plant-based yarn, and it has a wonderful drape, and it does fit the design as well. You know, it's not one of my pet peeves when people or brands, I mean, I get it, I don't hate the people, but I now that I knit, I understand why I have this thing. I don't like when a cable pattern is knitted in a plant-based yarn, just because, you know, plant-based yarns don't have the same roundness and bounciness overall. So I feel like you put a lot of work into something and it doesn't show up that much. So yeah, it's not that you're knitting cables with cotton and then it kind of doesn't fit the yarn choice doesn't fit the overall design. I feel that, like, I think that the Marseille sweater even if it was knitted in cotton or other fibers, it would look great as well. But now that I've knitted this, I think that maybe this one. I mean, because you can, it's really addictive, and you kind of get different results depending on the color. You can play a lot with the colors with this one. I thought that, if you save enough scraps of one color, you could just have like a rainbow wardrobe of all the shades, you know, of all shades in this, just in this sweater, a striped white sweater with all pink yarn, all blue yarn, all green one yarn, all yellow yarn, and so on. So this gives a lot of room for that. And yeah, so I think this would save a little bit of my mental sanity, but I would maybe substitute the twisted rib. I hate knitting twisted rib, so maybe if I would have to knit, this pattern for the rest of my life, I would, for my, wrist's sake, I would substitute the half twisted rib. It's not even twisted rib, but I hate it. Half twisted rib with a normal 1x1 rib. So yeah, that's maybe a good answer. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe some really complex color work would be fine as well, but we have some limits. I haven't knitted one of those yet. I'm knitting a pretty complex color work, but I mean one of those with like 10 colors, not all at once, of course, but like very colorful and impactful. So maybe they will look kind of different depending on your color choice as well. Just saying. As someone like will take this question seriously, would take my advice on, well, if I have to knit one sweater for the rest of my life, what would that be? I don't think so, but that's my thought. And if the question is instead one just item for the rest of your life, I mean, I would say like a never-ending cabled lace structure blanket, like never-ending. One of those, maybe in the round, so you could just keep on knitting, and it doesn't get out of proportion. If you start a rectangular regular blanket, you cannot just keep knitting forever, otherwise it would look kind of strange. But if it's a circle, it's just a really big massive circle. So yeah, maybe that would be great, like a super massive Augustine's number 1 or something like that. I don't know, with really small yarn maybe, so that would take even longer. I'm definitely not starting that project anyway, so that was fun though to think about. No, I was thinking my mom, that's crochet though. Like at 16 or at 18, she started crocheting a blanket with like very light fingering weight yarn, if not lace yarn, and maybe 3 or 2 millimeter hook size. She's still working on that, so maybe that would be a good candidate as well. Then the other knitting related question, the last one, is how did you start knitting? How do you learn how to knit? Yeah, that was it. And so basically I learned from my mom, because like, imagine the situation. I was little and I didn't want to fall asleep by myself. I was kind of scared, and I found falling asleep near my mom, like next to my mom, really comforting. So I would say, okay, sorry dad, can I just fall asleep with her, and then you'll just take me to bed afterwards? but she was knitting. She was knitting all the time, cross stitching, crocheting. But there was, like, when I was 7 years old, I'm not sure, but I saw her knitting and I was fascinated, and I kept watching and watching and watching. And after a bit, I understood that was all just a single motion, just a repetitive motion over and over again. So I was like watching really intensely and being like, yo, yeah, so she stabs in, she goes like that, and blah, 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 blah. And so I asked her, like, Mom, do you think I'm good enough to learn all of that? You have something that I can do, maybe? And she basically gave me, which wasn't very smart, but maybe it was the only thing that she had, some 15 millimeter needles, plastic, and also a dark burgundy fluffy yarn, which is not the best to learn. I mean, it kind of serves a purpose because it hides mistakes a lot, but also you can barely see what you're knitting. And also I was knitting primarily in bed while she was knitting as well. So yeah, that's how I learned. I think I knitted a scarf, and yeah, I mean, it looked good enough because of the yarn choice that, there were kind of massive holes, but when I wrapped around me, and you couldn't really see them, so kind of served the purpose. But at the same time, I was like, I had a lot of tension issues. Basically, she had to buy me metal needles because as a kid, even, like, uh stitches kept coming off of my needles, like sliding off of my left hand needle, and I kept dropping stitches, but I wasn't able to pick them back up, of course. So I just ended up with massive holes in my knitting, and I was knitting really tightly because of that. Because if I knit very tightly, the loops are going to stay on the needles more. But then I really wasn't able to just stab, like, to pass my needle through the loops. So that was a bit impractical. But yeah, I was just in a never-ending cycle of knitting things too tightly. So she bought me metal needles, and then, things got a little bit better. But yeah, that's how I started. And then, like, over the years, in the summers, when you're like in your mid like in your early adolescence, I was never the one to go out a lot, so I was reading, but at the same time I was like, I feel like I want to do something else. And so I would pick up my needles every now and then, just because I didn't want to lose the skills, because I was aware that was something that wasn't very popular, and I liked it. I thought it was cool, and yeah, I just had this idea of wanting to do a pencil case. Don't ask me why. Why would you knit yourself a pencil case? That was the only item and thing I could think of that wasn't a garment, and something that had to be, that was small enough, and I didn't have to be worried about the fit and about shaping. It's basically a mini scarf that you fold in half and you sew the sides, and you maybe, like, put buttons. Like, how impractical would that be to put buttons on a pencil case? All the pencils will come out of the holes between the buttons, of course. So I don't know. But that was my idea. It never came to fruition, unfortunately. But yeah. And then, like, many people started knitting or restarted knitting during the pandemic, so like 2020 and stuff. But I didn't really get into it. I was more into gaming. I didn't really get into it till I think it was 2021, or was it 2021? I think it was 2021. And like late 2021 though. It was basically when Hope Macaulay and all of the chunky knits and all of that, those crochet summer tops were really popular. I was like, I know how to crochet, I know how to knit. I wonder what I could do with my skill level right now. So I basically crocheted my first garment in the summer of that year. I crocheted my first cardigan. That was I don't know if I have a picture, maybe I do. My first cardigan inspired by one of those Hope Macaulay's things that has now been frogged, and I don't really know what to do with it. Maybe knit something, I'm not really sure what. Maybe a blanket, something like that. We'll see. I mean, maybe it's one of those yarn that people used to crochet plushies and amigurumis, but I really only have 4 colors, so what can you do? I have like lilac, baby pink, sage green, and light yellow, so you cannot really do much with that. And I think I would like a blanket like that, but we'll see. I have no idea. Either way, I crocheted that cardigan, but my mom is really a fan of knit garments versus crochet garments. So she was like, oh, but imagine if you needed this, it would be so much nicer, blah, 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 stretchier and more lightweight, not that heavy. And I'm like, Mom, all crocheters say that knitting is super hard and way harder than crochet. So who do you think I am? She's like, no, you're talented, blah, blah, blah. So I looked up a video of um yeah, like how to knit, like no, how to knit a sweater, because I knew how to knit, like how to knit a sweater. And I found Bethany's tutorial for like knitting your chunky sweater or something like that. It was really well done, and I was struggling so much with learning how to purl instead. I knew how to knit, but I didn't know how to purl, because I don't know, it just felt so, knitting felt so intuitive and purling felt so counterintuitive, because I mean, it was the perfect opposite, but I just couldn't wrap my head around it. So yeah, and I also couldn't read my knitting yet, so that was tough to figure out by myself. But Bethany made it really, really clear, and I knitted, and that's why I started knitting. The first thing I knitted was a garment. I knitted her sable sweater, which has been a rebel as well, and I reknitted it a little bit better, and I have a like 2-part blog on this channel where I documented the whole thing. I just want to make sure I'm not knitting from the tail. Yeah, okay. And yeah, I knitted that sweater because I didn't want to knit another scarf. I knew scarves, they take forever. And also after that, I knitted a scarf, and I realized for the first time in my life that scarves are actually so long. Like, they're usually taller than you, so that was pretty long. Yeah, I'm just snuggle under Christmas, my Christmas blanket. And yeah, that's basically how I started to knit. Then I made, like, when I was younger, after I made a scarf, I made a cowl, which, my mom still likes because the yarn is, one of those really funky, really fluffy. That was garter stitch, and I can still like fit basically 2 or 3 fingers inside either a hole or a garter bump, which was really, really loose. I don't really want to go more in depth in that investigation. I don't really want to find out if that's a hole. For not knowing that, but it kind of looks good. So sometimes it gets warm. The scarf, I don't know where it went. I don't know if it's still live or something. I don't know if it got frogged to make the cowl. I have no idea, honestly, but yeah, kind of looks fashionable, the cowl. It's one of those really chunky and plush things. So yeah, If you want to comment down below, how do you how you learn how to knit? That would be really. I think that these questions are always really funny, and people have um like oddly specific anecdotes to tell people. So if you have one of those, please leave them. Like, feel free to leave them in the comments. And yeah, and then like this is the end of the knitting related questions, really. And then I just had multiple questions of what do I study at uni, and I study economics and business in like fully in English, in a private university here in Rome, and I like it so far. I'm in my second year, and it's a bachelor degree. Yeah, it's a bachelor degree. So then after that, I will have to decide what to do with my master's degree, if I want to do that, but I think I do. All of that, still gotta figure it out. I chose economics because, I'm one of those people who were really into scientific subjects and science. I even did like astronomy. It's kind of like astronomy Olympic Games, which is a national/international competition, astronomy competition, and astrophysics competition. And I kind of did really good. But yeah, so at first I thought I wanted to do like astronomy, astrophysics, but to do astrophysics is basically physics, like 3 years of physics, and then you take the astrophysics master, or at least that's how it works here. I don't know if that's different for different countries, but that's how it works here. But then then you're like, yeah, but if I want to, if I do astronomy, I better do astrophysics, which is more complete overall. But if I do astrophysics, let's just do like an aerospace engineering or something like that, and basically choosing something really challenging but overall very complete, I feel like, as a sphere of knowledge. What am I saying? But I think you get my point. But I discovered that I didn't really want to study physics more. Like, I'm really fascinated by physics, but even I think that's my high school physics teacher's fault. I am really fascinated by physics because of personal reasons, but school really made me hate and not understanding many exercises. So it's like, yeah, but if I'm not good at it now, I just shouldn't take it for 3 years and then maybe deciding I don't even like the job, because that's kind of the point. If you already know what job you want to make, choosing your academic path is really easy, because it's like, I want to be a doctor, I study medicine. I want to be an engineer, I don't know, an architect, I take architecture degree, I hope so, and stuff like that. But in my case, I still don't have a dream job or something like that, so it made things a bit more tough. And honestly, like, I think I'm really clever, if I may say so myself. Like, I think I can do things really well when I put my effort into it. But the point is, I don't want to put effort into something I don't know if I'm gonna like in the long run. It's kind of an important decision, kinda, where what you're going to study at university, because that's kind of limiting then your life choices, if we want to put it like that. So I was really undecided, and I was going straight up with the engineering degree, but then I'm like, I don't know if I want to be an engineer. Like, I'm fascinated by physics and astrophysics, but I don't want to spend my life actually building stuff, you know? So what's the point if, you know, doing an engineering degree if you don't think you're going to like being an engineer? Yeah, economics overall has lots of math and statistics, which I like. I mean, I didn't know if I liked statistics because I've never done statistics in high school, but I was fascinated and I wanted to try. So yeah, and economics is, something that is really useful to know and dip your toes in anyway. So I thought, it opens a lot of opportunities, and it gives you kind of more time to think about what you want to do in your life, what maybe job you want to, yeah, what do you want to do. So yeah, that's what I study. Also, someone said, I would really like to see you dancing ballet, which is so cute. I read it and I was like, oh my god. And I don't know if I have a video of me particularly. I don't know if I would feel particularly confident in putting a video of just me dancing, but let's see if I will maybe put either a picture or maybe a video where you cannot see who I am, one of those videos from the audience where it's all blurry but you can see like the body's moving, something like that. But yeah, these were all the questions. And yeah, I just had my stockinette project to work on. I just started, so okay. Yeah, and also I was working on my stockinette project. It was really calming. I really enjoyed just getting my thoughts out into the world. So I would really love your feedback on if you enjoyed this video, if you have more questions for me or curiosities. I had asked for unpopular knitting opinions, and I have a couple, but maybe it would be fun to have just one video dedicated to unpopular knitting opinions, because I love actually unpopular knitting opinions. I think I have, a lot of unpopular knitting opinions, so I love hearing other people's thoughts on that. And so yeah, if you have unpopular knitting opinions, please leave them in the comments. We can do a video about that. Or if you have more questions for me, you can, if I have enough, I can do a part 2 of these. And yeah, answer those. And I hope you had a great time. Thank you for spending these, like, how long will this be? Like half an hour with me talking and hearing me talk basically about myself, which is really kind of you. And so yeah, I usually do podcast episodes if you're new around here, and if you would want to stick around for that, I would really appreciate, and I suggest you just subscribing to the channel if you want, and to be sure you're not missing out on anything. And I really hope you're well, and that I'll see you in the next one. So bye.